This is English 201, week 3, part 7. Let's talk about Kafka a little bit more. So you can go on Wikipedia, read a summary. I think that'd be helpful. There is, I will not lie to you. There is a movie version of Kafka's Metamorphosis available. It was made in 2012 by a guy named, I have his name here, Chris Swanton. It does not star anyone famous. It is not a very good movie. It's fine. Like the special effects are not great because they clearly don't have a lot of money. I will say, that it is it follows the book almost exactly. Like I just basically like everything that like there's a moment in the because I've read Metamorphosis a lot of times because I teach it. There's a moment where like the dad comes home, he takes his hat off and he throws it on the chair, like that's in the movie. Like why did they like everything? Just about it. I think everything like it's very faithful to the book. It follows like watching the movie. You could like read the book. Like usually when they take books and they turn them into movies, they change a bunch of stuff and they not this one. And I actually think when you turn a book into a movie, you should change some stuff because movies are different than books, and I don't think they should be the same. It's silly to just like transfer everything over exactly. There are lots of things in the book that wouldn't work in a movie, and this movie just it does everything. Anyway, I don't recommend you watch it, but because it's not great. I don't like recommending things to people that I don't personally like, but like it does include every single thing that happens, and it is 100 minutes long. It's called The Metamorphosis. It's from 2012. Now, that is a common name, The Metamorphosis. There's lots of books called The Metamorphosis. There's several movies called The Metamorphosis. You need the one made from 2012 by a guy named Chris Swanton. Anyway, I don't recommend it, but I will tell you that it exists. There's also several audiobooks of it, and I was thinking about having a famous person read it to you, except that the translation that I've picked, which I picked because it's free, isn't the translation that's being read in the audiobook. Also, a lot of the audiobooks appear to be sort of cut down, like they cut parts out of it to make it shorter, and that's not what I want from this class because I'm going to be going over a lot. I'm interested in details, and I don't want things being cut out of the story. So I hate to say this, and I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but I don't think there's anybody around who can really stop me. I'm going to read it to you. I don't think it's in 3 sections. I don't even think I'll get finished with the first section today. But I am going to sort of read it to you because I think it'll make it easier. My students often don't read very much. And obviously, if you've read the thing, you could certainly skip me reading it to you. But if you think it would be nice to have somebody read a book to you, well, this is your moment because I'm going to fucking do it. I'm even sitting down, which I almost never do. It's a very unflattering camera angle. I'm going to see if I can change that to something I like a little bit better. Get my stick in gear here. Like that? Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so I'm gonna angle it a little bit like this. I'm gonna read this, and you can read along. I'm gonna read every word in our class copy. I've underlined shit I think is important, but you won't find out what I think is important until later. Yeah, I don't know. I just my students like it when I read shit out loud. Also, I think literature. It's better to hear it out loud. I audiobook shit all the time. I listen to hundreds. Just over the last 18 months, I listened to an audiobook that was 462 hours long. It was a dumb fantasy novel I wouldn't even recommend, but I fucking read it. It's like more than twice the size of Game of Thrones. Anyway, I thought I would read this to you. It's in 3 sections. So my plan was read section 1, discuss section 1, read section 2, discuss section 2, read section 3, discuss section 3. Although I don't think I'm even going to finish section 1 today, but I don't know. I got time. I'm here making videos. Oh, yep, I'm fine. Guys, I'm fine. I'm okay. Okay. Whew, that was exciting. So I'm going to read it. I don't know. This could be the dumbest fucking thing I've done, but I'm going to read the book. Anyway, you probably, if you're going to read it on your own, you could probably skip ahead and try to find out at what point I start discussing things. I don't know. I'll see if I can mark that for you. I don't know. Anyway, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. All right. I don't take my glasses off. I don't know. I don't really need them. They're just fashion glasses. I have a bunch of glasses because I think they look fucking cool. Okay. Also, by the way, one of the most famous opening sentences in the history of anything. One morning, when Gregor Samsa awoke from troubled dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a horrible vermin. It's a giant bug. One of the first questions you're going to have, and the movie, there's no way, but the movie has to fuck this up. the famous question is, what kind of bug? And the answer is nobody knows, and that's part of the point. It's supposed to be hard to picture what he is. Most people imagine he's a cockroach, but he could be a cockroach or a beetle or some kind of caterpillar thing. It's a gross bug. Usually a cockroach is what people picture, although it's really important, I think, to note. I'm not going to stop and discuss a lot, but I do want to say this because it's really important. In the opening sentence, the character is transformed into a giant bug. They never really say what kind of bug. Probably you should picture a cockroach, although be aware that Franz Kafka didn't want a picture of the bug on the cover of the book because he didn't want people to be able to know exactly what kind of bug he is. He's just been turned into some kind of horrible bug. Okay. One morning, when Gregor Samsa woke from troubled dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a horrible vermin. He lay on his armor-like back, and if he lifted his head a little, he could see his brown belly, slightly domed and divided by arches into stiff sections. The bedding was hardly able to cover it, and seemed ready to slide off at any moment. His many legs, pitifully thin compared with the size of the rest of him, waved about helplessly as he looked. What has happened to me? He thought. It wasn't a dream. His room, a proper human room, although a little too small, lay peacefully between its four familiar walls. A collection of textile samples lay spread out on the table. Samsa was a traveling salesman, and above it there hung a picture that he'd recently cut out of an illustrated magazine and housed in a nice gilded frame. It showed a lady fitted out with a fur hat and fur boa who sat upright, raising a heavy fur muff that covered the whole of her lower arm towards the viewer. Gregor then turned to look out the window at the dull weather. Drops of rain could be heard hitting the pane, which made him feel quite sad. How about if I sleep a little bit longer and forget all this nonsense, he thought. But that was something he was unable to do because he was used to sleeping on his right, and in his present state he couldn't get into that position. However hard he threw himself onto his right, he always rolled back to where he was. He must have tried it 100 times, shut his eyes so that he wouldn't have to look at the floundering legs, and only stopped when he began to feel a mild, dull pain there that he had never felt before. Oh, God, he thought, what a strenuous career it is that I've chosen. Traveling day in and day out, doing business like this takes much more effort than doing your own business at home. And on top of that, there's this curse of traveling. Worries about making train connections, bad and irregular food, contact with people all the time so that you can never know anyone or become friendly with them. It can all go to hell. He felt a slight itch up on his belly. He pushed himself slowly up on his back toward the headboard so he could lift his head better. He found where the itch was and saw it was covered with lots of little white spots which he didn't know what to make of. And when he tried to feel the place with one of his legs, he drew it quickly back because as soon as he touched it, he was overcome by a cold shudder. He slid back into his former position. Getting up early all the time, he thought, it makes you stupid. You gotta get enough sleep. Other traveling salesmen live a life of luxury. For instance, whenever I go back to the guest house during the morning to copy out the contract, these gentlemen are always sitting there eating their breakfasts. I ought to just try that with my boss. I'd get kicked out on the spot. But who knows? Maybe that would be the best thing for me. If I didn't have my parents to think about, I'd have given my notice a long time ago. I'd have gone up to the boss and told him just what I think. Tell him everything I would. Let him know just how I feel. He'd fall right off his desk. It's a funny sort of business to be up there at your desk talking down to your subordinates from up there, especially when you've got to go right up close because the boss is hard of hearing. Well, there's still some hope. Once I've got the money together to pay off my parents' debt to him, another 5 or 6 years, I suppose, that's definitely what I'll do. That's when I'll make the big change. First of all, though, I've got to get up. My train leaves at 5. And he looked over at the alarm clock ticking on the chest of drawers. God in heaven, he thought. It was 6:30, and the hands were quietly moving forwards. It was even later than 6:30, more like 7:15. Had the alarm clock not rung? Well, he could see from the bed that it had been set for 4 o'clock as it should have been. Certainly it must have rung. But was it possible to quietly sleep through that furniture-rattling noise? True, he had not slept peacefully, but probably all the more deeply because of that. What should he do now? Well, the next train was at 7. If he were to catch that, he would have to rush like mad, and the collection of samples was still not packed, and he did not feel particularly fresh and lively. And even if he did catch the train, he would not avoid his boss's anger, as the office assistant would have been there to see the 5 o'clock train go. He would have put in his report about Gregor's not being there a long time ago. The office assistant was the boss's man, spineless, and with no understanding. What about if he reported sick? But that would be extremely strange and suspicious, because in 15 years of service, Gregor had never once been ill. His boss would certainly come around with the doctor from the medical insurance company and accuse his parents of having a lazy son and accept the doctor's recommendation not to make any claim, as the doctor believed that no one was ever ill, but that many were work shy. And what's more, would he have been entirely wrong in this case? Gregor did, in fact, apart from excessive sleepiness after sleeping for so long, feel completely well and even much hungrier than usual. All right, pick it up in the next video.